Welcome to the podcast from Headhunters Northwest. Headhunters Northwest. Specialized recruiting, specialized approach, where we take you behind the scenes into our customers' businesses. For over 20 years, Headhunters Northwest has served the global defense, small arms, and shooting sectors worldwide. Listen in as we discuss the inner workings of our USA and international customers. Headhunters Northwest, finding you the best heads for business.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Headhunters Northwest podcast. I know I say I'm excited about these because each one is unique and individual, but we've never had a podcast or done a podcast where we got to talk with someone about service dogs. And, you know, a lot of you may have met George and I at trade shows, and you may have seen George on my social media, but George Washington is my service dog. And I'm really excited that I get to talk about something with someone who knows more about this than me. Welcome, Brandon Butler, who is the CEO of Retrieving Freedom. And you're going to want to listen to this podcast because he's going to tell you how you can donate and help the organization and about how these dogs help so many people. So welcome, Brandon.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate the introduction. I don't know if I know more about service dogs than you do. I'm very new to this, and you've had George for a while, so I'm sure I have a lot to learn from both you and George.
Well, I don't know. I just practice. You know, it's really all about George. I think that's the one thing I've learned is he makes me look good, but really the work is being done by him. And I'm sure you've seen that with what these dogs, they're just inherently know what their human needs.
Oh, it's really remarkable. Retrieving Freedom is based in Sedalia, Missouri, because our largest benefactor is the Hayden Freedom Foundation, which is the Hayden family with Starline Brass. Mr. Hayden had a long career with Sierra Bullets as well. Before that, Lake City Ammunition. So we're very Second Amendment friendly. My background is in the shooting sports and the outdoor industry as well. So to be able to marry my passion for the shooting sports industry, along with helping people, especially our veterans and children that are suffering from autism as well, that is just a remarkable opportunity for me.
Well, I think I didn't look at my database that helps my memory for everything, but I want to say that you and I first connected somewhere around maybe 15 years or so ago. We've stayed in touch, and you're an accomplished writer, and you're an expert, I would say, in conservation and organizations. And so you bring a lot to the table in this role.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think it was about 15 years ago. I was the marketing manager at Battenfeld Technologies, which is now American Outdoor Brands. So I had the brands Caldwell, Tipton, Wheeler Engineering. The powder fields at Midway USA still owned Battenfeld at the time. That's what actually brought me to Missouri, which was one of the best moves ever. I absolutely love living in rural Missouri. After that, I ended up taking over as the CEO or the executive director of the Conservation Federation of Missouri.
That's
right. So I spent 5 years leading that organization. That led me to kind of deviate out of the shooting sports world into renewable energy. But there was a really strong conservation tie to that as well, working on soil health and water quality, carbon sequestration through the establishment of prairie that could then be harvested and used to create renewable natural gas through a process called anaerobic digestion. So we were actually digesting animal waste mineral into renewable fuel, supplementing that through the establishment of prairie in our marginal land. So I've been a little scattered in my career around.
Yeah, but it all ties back to conservation and giving back. I mean, really, I think almost everything you've done has been about promoting and bringing recognition to people and their hobbies and their passions. And this one is kind of a little bit more than that. This is incredible. Can you maybe tell us a little bit about Retrieving Freedom and how you got into this? Because how would you even found this? This is awesome.
It's just crazy how life works out. You know, you make these connections with people and sometimes you don't see each other for years. And then all of a sudden someone pops back up in your life. And,
Yeah.
I've had so much going on in the last few years that I truly feel that there's almost a divine interaction here that led me to this situation. I was at Raceline Alternative Energy for about 5 years, and that's really how long I wanted to be there. After the Conservation Federation, in that role, I was a registered lobbyist. I joked that I was the Lorax. I was in the Capitol speaking for the trees. So I was, working for hunting, fishing, soil health, water quality, everything that you can attribute to nature and time spent outdoors. I've gotten to a point in my life where giving back to the critters that have given me so much through hunting and through fishing is really where my passion lies. So I was in the Capitol for about 5 years. And at that point, I'd had about enough. I felt like the organization was better than I had found it. And I had a great guy working for me that was ready to step in. And when I met Rudy Raceline and started building this relationship with him, it became very clear that I had a lot to learn from this incredible individual. Rudy is like an American dream, came to America with nothing. He was a first generation immigrant after World War II. And just through hard work and attrition, he climbed the ladder to very, very strong corporate success, to the point where he was at a phase of his life where it was all about, like, what can I do to leave this planet better than I found it? I was so thrilled to have the opportunity to get to know him. And, a tip that I would give to anybody kind of working their way up the ladder was, like, look for those kind of mentors, look for those people that move you. Because after CFM, I had an opportunity to move directly up the ladder and go run another organization that was a little bit bigger. For basketball fans out there, I always liken it to the small school in the NCAA tournament that you've never heard of. All of a sudden, there's a coach that takes a team to the Sweet 16, and 5 days after they lose their game, he's the coach at some mid-major. And I could have done that, or I could have gone and sat on the bench next to one of the greatest of all time. And I chose to do that. And I chose to learn. I chose to further my education with an MBA at Mizzou during that time. And that was a really, really good decision, because frankly, I just wasn't half the professional then that I am today.
Yeah.
And it was because of Rudy and the opportunity to do that. So fast forward to last October, so October of 2023, and my heart was already set on looking for the next opportunity to get back into leadership. I really didn't know what that looked like. I had the potential to go to the American Biogas Council to be a vice president there. That was DC based. Through grace and a lot of tough times, I've ended up with my 2 teenage daughters full time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's the greatest thing that'll ever happen in my life. So for the last 2 years, I've been a full-time single dad to 2 teenage girls. And if that doesn't teach you humility and patience, I really don't know what
That's
will.
right. Yeah, that's right.
Truly in such a special place with those 2 that I didn't want to be gone from Central Missouri too often. I live on a beautiful 40-acre spread in a county that doesn't even have a stoplight. That's how rural it is. And I was just kind of struggling with that decision. And I was at a Mizzou football game, and I hear this voice in the background, and I'm like, I can't be. And I turn around, and it's Bobby Hayden. So Bobby is now the CEO of Starline Brass. And we hadn't seen each other in probably 5 years, and just picked up like 2 old friends do.
I love that.
He said, man, we've got this opportunity running a nonprofit. And my initial reaction was, no, man, I've been down that nonprofit road. That's not for me. He's like, well, mom and dad have invested so much in this, and I have so much respect for the Hayden family. Sadly, we recently lost Mrs. Hayden, but Mr. Hayden is still, going and involved and as sharp as ever. And just out of respect for them, I wanted to go down and see what they had built and what they were committed to. And he had said, maybe you'd be a great board member for us. And that I was really interested in. And it was just fortuitous that the day I went down there, we had a veteran named Ivan and his wife, Mary Jo, in residence. So we have a residence wing on both of our campuses. We have campuses in Sedalia, Missouri, and Waverly, Iowa.
Wow.
And when our clients come to train, they stay for free. Everything for the client is free. The service dogs are free.
Wow.
Those dogs have over $50,000 in training by the time we place them. The clients just have to get to the facility, and then everything is taken care of from that point. And it's beautiful. Ivan is 75 years old. He was a Vietnam machine gunner.
Wow.
And I learned something every day from these people. And if you'd asked me a year ago, like, what happens to someone from Vietnam who had PTSD? I would have thought to myself that, it probably gets better with time as memory fades. For some people, it's the exact opposite. And as Ivan has, gotten up there in years, his PTSD continues to get worse. He's really haunted by some of the things that he did. And that in and of itself is incredibly
I can't even imagine how you could rest. You can't rest.
And he gets up and patrols the house. So that's something that, his wife talked about. But Ivan's story was moving, but it was really Mary Jo that got me. Because when she started to explain, it's a burden of love, but it's still a burden. Like the burden of having to be the service provider for the person suffering with the PTSD and what that takes away from her own life. Like her inability to leave him for a few hours.
Freedom.
Go volunteer at a church.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And that's where the name Retrieving Freedom, all of a sudden the light bulb went off. These are retrievers that we're placing, Labrador retrievers and golden retrievers. But we're providing freedom not only to the recipient, but to everyone that loves that person and everyone that supports that person, who can now leave this person in the care of their dog and go to the store with less worry, who can volunteer at their church, who can have some semblance of a normal life, maybe sleep through the night without having to worry what's going on with their partner or their loved one. And the veterans are half of it, and the other half are children on the autism spectrum. So that ranges a lot, and some children just aren't capable of having the dog at all if it's that severe. There's a window there where it makes perfect sense. Because
is it sensory for them? Is it touching the fur, and is it calming, or what part of that do you know? I don't even know. That's why I'm asking.
There's a lot of reasons, but that's definitely part of it. It's not necessarily touching the fur, but it's having pressure applied during an episode. And that's the same thing that happens. It's really like anxiety based for the veteran and very similar for the child. So if an episode is beginning to occur, these dogs are trained with different levels of attention. So pause is our visit is simply when the dog comes over and lays its head in your lap, and you can pet the dog. And anybody who's ever petted a dog, we all love dogs. You know that it just does something to your mind. That
something magic.
It brings a calm over you.
Yeah.
If the visit isn't enough, then they do what's called pause, and the dog will rear up on its back legs, and it'll come up and put its paws and front legs over your lap, and that begins to apply that pressure. Well, a lot of these children will have weighted blankets or weighted animals or weighted pillows that apply that pressure. And if the pause isn't enough, there's a full-blown crash where the dogs will crash their full body on you and essentially just apply a full body weight of pressure. So that in and of itself is so calming to these people when going through an episode. Outside of that, parents often have children, that are 10 or older, still in need of that kind of closeness. So they find them in bed with them. So you've got parents that haven't been able to sleep without their child in their bed for 10, 11, 12 years. They take their buddy to bed now. And now they've got their dog with them.
Yeah.
A lot of these children are socially awkward at times in school. They're not the best communicators or many other reasons. And now, instead of being that kid, they're the kid who brings the dog to school. And it helps them build friendships and be the cool kid in class who brings their dog pal with them every day. So
what an amazing gift to anyone. I mean, this is a huge investment. I'm not surprised by the $50,000 investment to train a dog. It's a huge investment. So how do people who need these dogs, how do you find them?
Well, we have an application process. If you go to retrievingfreedom.org, we have an application process. Now, I will say there's a lot of different levels of service dog quality out there. Our process isn't fast. I mean, it's about a 2-year process to get placed with your dog. During that time, you'll go through training, you'll be assessed. We are Assistance Dog International accredited. So it's an ADI accreditation. This is an international
big deal, right? I mean, I haven't heard of that before, and it's quite a big deal.
I mean, it's essentially a stamp of professional approval. Unfortunately, we're in a situation now where if you wanted to have a service dog, you can go online and fill out a form, pay your $100, and they're going to mail you a certificate. And this is like unacceptable in our industry because it really dilutes the value of a true service dog. If these dogs are going to need to fly on airplanes, if these dogs are going into public buildings, riding on a train, they need to be fully functioning. The minute, somebody claims to have a service dog, they take it on the airplane, it has an episode, that just diminishes the entire industry. So politically speaking, there's definitely legislation that needs to be filed. There's a political process that needs to be worked to really set apart those organizations that are providing true service dogs that pass tests, that prove abilities versus, being able to buy and print a certificate off the internet in a moment's notice because you want your dog to live in a pet-free apartment complex, or you want to take your dog on vacation and you don't want to pay to put it on the plane the old-fashioned.
It's a lot of work. I don't know why anyone would want to do that. I can tell you firsthand, it is a lot of work. And not to mention, it's a lot of weight. So, when you're talking about flying these days, you have the weight limit on your luggage. I just came back from a 2-week trip and I can tell you, I weighed my dog's food. It was 10 pounds of food. And he eats very lightweight, freeze-dried food, something that is very high quality, that is lightweight. So you have that, and I have other things, his brush and his e-collar and, other things that you need to bring. It is not a picnic. So I don't know why anyone would purposely want to do that and not have a dog that's really, really is a service dog, because I don't know. It's a tremendous commitment to do this.
Yeah, it really is. But the results are worth it for the people.
Absolutely. The people who need these dogs, you can't replace what they do for them. A human can't do what these dogs can sense. That's pretty exciting. So if someone's hearing this and they say, how can I get involved? We want to donate. Your organization accepts corporate donations, individual donations, right? People are able to go online and donate to help this organization, aren't they?
100%. I mean, that's the only way that we exist. We don't have a source of revenue other than the generosity of people who are willing to support us and help us save lives and change lives. I mean, that's our mission, is to change lives through the process of placing a service dog. One thing I'll say is that we lose 19 to 22 veterans in this country every day to suicide. Wow. And every veteran that we've placed a dog with is still alive. And some of them have come to us as their final hope. And now they have their dog, and it gives them a brand new lease. Okay. Ivan just recently got placed with Arby, and he'll get Arby sometime this summer. He's coming up on June 6th to an event. I'm very excited to have the National Shooting Sports Foundation coming to our event at the Hayden home on June 6th to film an episode of Real Solutions. So those of us in this industry, those of us that believe in the Second Amendment, we know it's not the firearms' fault. So we're looking for real solutions. They have that series called Real Solutions, and these service dogs are certainly a real solution to suicide prevention. So many of us, myself included, I'll never forget February of 2022 when I lost one of my best friends to suicide. He was not a veteran, but he still left behind 3 children under 5. To think that something as simple as having a dog in his life, that loved him and cared about him and required his attention could have potentially saved his life. Anybody that knows the pain of losing a loved one to suicide, if you think you know someone that is a qualified candidate for our organization, a veteran or a child, not that we're losing the children to suicide necessarily, just the veterans.
Right.
Please reach out, encourage them to reach out. I've heard so many stories about how this dog saved my life. And I can tell you, it's like any job. When there are days that you're like, what am I doing? Like, how am I going to make it? Like, this is harder than it should be. And then you meet someone like Jennifer from Las Vegas, who was just in residence and a veteran that had a traumatic brain injury. And when she showed up 2 years ago, she couldn't, raise her eyes off of her toes, staring at the floor, wouldn't communicate. Now she's got her dog Birdie, and she's out making YouTube videos called A Bird's Eye View. And sharing her story. So we're giving life back. We're saving lives and giving life back.
That's awesome. I'm really excited that you took this job as the CEO, because I've always enjoyed our interactions and always said there's someday we're going to work together somehow, one way or another. And when you and I connected about this, I just was tickled, because I don't, it's not something every day that people talk about. And even though people hear about these canines and there's lots of versions of these canines and lots of versions of things, this is such a great organization that it's keep it simple and get the people what they need. And I think the more we can get the message out there and share this with organizations that support service dogs and veterans and these children, I just think you can't go wrong. There's no downside here.
There's really not. And no, I appreciate what you said, about our interactions. It's a two-way street. I've always thought you were such a great professional to learn from and to lean on. And then I thought of George. I thought of you and I thought of George, and I was like, who in the industry, first person I'd call. And sure enough, you were so gracious and excited. And you have such an incredible network that I know having you on the sidelines,
cheering you on,
retrieving freedom, that's going to be beneficial to us. So I'm very grateful.
Well,
and I know our industry is going to support us.
Absolutely.
I've already talked to a number of people, and Bobby Hayden is down at the NRA show, and I wish I could have made it this year, but I've got a lot of fires to put out back here at the office. But I can't wait to see where we are in a couple of years.
Well, and you're connecting with the right organizations. It doesn't just take one of us, and that's what I love about the industry as a whole. And you can call the industry whatever you want: outdoor, shooting sports, defense industry. It doesn't matter. We act as a whole. Conservation, the National Shooting Sports Foundation, which is the nssf.org, if anyone doesn't know what that is. They are the trade association for our industry, and they are unlike any other trade association that my company has been affiliated with the exception maybe of the NASGW group. They're really great too. But the NSSF really goes out of its way, and the people who work there, to support the trade. They have gone out of their way for me to support me, and we certainly do contribute to their sponsorships and to their PAC, their Political Action Committee. But this is an organization that, coming to film you and putting this into this show, you just couldn't ask for more support. And I just don't think you'll go wrong. I mean, when we were at the marketing summit, they made George his own badge, first name and last name, George Washington, and it's relief when I travel to anything that's through the NSSF, because I'm not worried about whether or not they're going to accept my service dog. They understand the role that they serve, and they're just a very supportive group. And I think wholeheartedly our industry is. I think when you communicate what Retrieve and Freedom, their goal is and what you're trying to achieve, I would hope you see bankrolls of money coming in to support this, because that's certainly something that my company plans on standing behind.
We certainly appreciate it. And I've created, so on the fundraising side, though, I'll address that, because part of this was best practices, right? You told me to have some best practices. So this organization, when I took it over, to me, a healthy nonprofit, or really a healthy organization financially, if you can picture a wedding cake in your mind, the base at the bottom is the biggest. So for example, let's take Ducks Unlimited. If you and I are members of Ducks Unlimited and we're paying $35 a year to be a member, it's that $35 times 400,000 or 500,000, however many members they have today. That's the dollars, that's the bucket of dollars, or that base layer that actually pays for administration, that pays salaries, it keeps the lights on. And then as you go up, those layers of cake shrink down in size until you get up to your like major donors. Those people want to do programmatic stuff. For example, we have an anonymous donor in the 6-figure range that only wants to help with breeding puppies. He just wants more Labrador puppies bred. So that's what he's willing to pay for. He's not willing to pay my salary.
Right.
Like, you figure that out on your own. So that's one of the challenges, a programmatic challenge of a nonprofit. So when I got here to Retrieving Freedom, it's almost like our wedding cake is upside down, and our base is very, very small. We have almost no recurring donations coming in, and then it goes up. We've got a few grants in that $10,000 to $25,000 range, and you go up, and we've got our 6-figure major donors, and they're keeping us alive right now. So my initial job is to create this base, and I'm doing that through the creation of our business alliance. So this is a $10,000 a year membership, which is 100% tax deductible. We're a 501c3. So if you're a business in the shooting sports industry, conservation industry, anything that has to do with this, or in the healthcare, or if you're just a fireplace salesman who loves children and veterans, then we're a good fit for you when it's time to look at that, tax payoff. If you'd rather give it to save a veteran's life than send it back to Uncle Sam.
There's always planned giving too. I mean, there's people that don't really have anyone else that they really want to or have access to leave anyone else their wealth. And those are things that I think right now are kind of a big deal in our country. I mean, I do think there is planned giving that needs to be addressed, because those are some pretty serious things. And it's an organization like this that really makes you think and go, well, this is pretty good opportunity. Think how many lives you could save.
100%. Yeah. A bequest is, what we call that. If you want to leave some money in your will to help keep people alive and provide freedom to families. And then so the business alliance I'm counting on, my goal is to have 100 at the end of 3 years. So that would be $1 million a year in recurring revenue. The money we can just count on for administrative purposes. And then to go down further, like I would love for you, Shailene, to give me $1 million, but like, let's say you can't, but I'm going to do a challenge coin. And we've already got a recurring giving software on our website. So if anybody wanted to sign up and do $20 a month, it automatically debits your card. But I'm going to do the challenge coin, where we're going to have 1,000 challenge coins numbered 1 to 1,000. And if I were to give you challenge coin number 7 and say, Shailene, could you give $10 a month or $20 a month? And if you say yes, you'll fill out this software and you'll be assigned challenge coin number 10 in that software. And your challenge is to move that coin forward. And if you get that coin to the next person and to the next person, then I can run a report and categorize it, by a sort through the challenge coin numbers, and it'll show me like how many people have been attributed to coin number 10. And if it's 0 after you, I'm going to pick up the phone and be like, Shailene, what's up? Like, why is this coin in your drawer? Get it back out there. So, I think, and that's the Sam Walton approach of more for less. If I can get more people giving less money, then great. Because if those challenge coins, let's say they don't do great, but they average $20 per coin, that's $20,000 a month.
Yep.
That'll
help a lot.
That's 5 dogs a year.
Yeah.
That's 5 lives we could save. So
Now, I think I saw you were looking for a grant writer right now. I mean, if you could use some help, some volunteer help or some contract help,
yeah,
someone who's listening to this that might have that skill set, what could you use help in?
yeah, fundraising, grant writing and
Okay.
fundraising. I love that you said contract help because it's the chicken and the egg.
Yeah.
I need people to raise money, but I need money to hire people.
Right.
So
Right.
which comes first? So I was thinking the other day, like if I could hire anybody to do fundraising for me right now, and many people will remember Kevin Orthman from Poma. He was the executive director of Poma for a while, one of my best friends. And he's out in California telling me what California money's like. He's like, my Midwest brain doesn't understand California money. I was like,
Yeah.
well, then, man, get some of it for me.
Right.
I'll give you 20% of anything you raise. But I can't afford to hire you. So right
Right.
now, I'm looking at building, I'm calling it my team of Avengers, RFI
Yeah.
Avengers, and putting together my absolute dream team of salespeople. And if they all just go out and pick the low-hanging fruit in their
Yeah.
lives, we could really change the game pretty quickly. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to assemble this team of 10 or so high-level professional friends from the shooting sports industry.
Yeah.
A few other industries as well. One of my friends, Julie, is a pharmaceutical rep in Austin, Texas. She knows all kinds of doctors at
Yeah.
Air.
It's
So
not limited to this. It's just that
yeah,
people have a passion to save lives and to help children. And if this is such a great opportunity, this is their chance to get into our industry. We get a lot of phone calls. Shailene, how do I get into the outdoor industry? How do I get into the shooting sports industry? This is how. You could volunteer your time and do some fundraising as your time allows and network with some amazing people. This would be a great way to get your foot in the door.
I've spent the last 20 years defending the shooting sports industry to the bunnies and butterfly crowd. Like if you like bunnies and butterflies, then you need habitat on the ground. And habitat on the ground is coming from the Pittman-Robertson Act that is funded by the shooting sports industry. So to be able to continue to make a positive difference in people's lives through a shooting sports industry funded nonprofit that truly saves people's lives, I think as a whole, that just gives us, more ammunition, per the pun, for who we really are as an industry and where our hearts are and how much good we collectively do. Because there wouldn't be conservation if it wasn't for the sale of firearms and bullets and all of our accessories.
Yeah, and all the hunting licenses and everything else.
Absolutely.
That's where all that money comes from. Well, I really appreciate you visiting with me about this, and I can't wait to see you in person again.
Yes.
There's no reason this isn't going to be wildly successful. And when you've got, top-notch organizations behind you, supporting you, and foundation folks there that have started this, and Starline Brass, and these are families that really believe in this way of life. I don't think you can go wrong. You just have to get the word out. And so hopefully this will help. And people can find it. Tell us what the website is.
It's retrievingfreedom.org. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention real quick Delta Waterfowl. We've got a great relationship with Delta Waterfowl where we auction off duck calls in support of RFI and we split the proceeds. So we've been doing that for a couple of years, and I'm looking to really expand that program.
Great.
And then replicate it as well. So
that's wonderful. Well, any partnerships of any organizations or marketing professionals that you're looking for a good partner, you might want to hit up Brandon. You can find him on LinkedIn. And if you don't know how to reach him, you can always reach out to me and I'll put you in touch.
I'll give my email address right now.
Yeah, please do.
It's Brandon@retrievingfreedom.org.
Great. And we will also, when we publish this, wherever the social media allows, we will put the links in there as well for your email and the website address.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you for being on Headhunters Northwest podcast. This has been really fun, a little bit unusual, but absolutely worth it. And of course, it's tied to George Washington. So why would we not do it? Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Headhunters Northwest podcast. Specialized recruiting, specialized approach. You can reach out at headhuntersnw.com or call 605-600-1709. Join us again next week as we look behind the curtain into the global defense, small arms, and shooting sectors. Headhunters Northwest, finding you the best heads for business.